Hello and welcome to Didn't Read It, the podcast where we sold our soul for books, but forgot to ask the devil for bookshelves. I am your host, Grace Todd, writer, editor, and possessor of a now devalued soul. Today, I am joined by friend of the pod, Lee Rossi. Hi, Lee.
Hi, Grace.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Lee Rossi. I am your friend. I was an English major a long time ago.
Are you lapsed?
That's about it. Yeah, I'm a lapsed English major.
Can you be a lapsed English major?
Yes, because I am. I don't remember almost anything that I read. I still remember how to read. That's about it.
Now, as a lapsed English major, do you get like passive-aggressive emails the way that you do when you're a lapsed Catholic? That's like...
Should I be getting emails for that too? Because I'm also that.
Thinking, well, I don't know. I'm thinking
maybe I have a really good spam filter. I don't know.
I don't know if your parents are like super chill about you being lapsed, or if they occasionally like nudge.
We don't. We just don't talk about it.
That's
in true Catholic fashion.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right. Well, fittingly, we are here today to discuss another lapsed person in fiction.
Is this all about me? Is this your roundabout way of intervening?
I actually wrote a novel about you, and we are here to synopsize it for a podcast.
Just the door opens and all my friends and family walk. I knew this was about me.
Didn't read it. The podcast that's actually an intervention. I think they already made that reality show.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as literary.
No.
Not yet. Give it time.
Yeah.
Booktervention.
Next podcast idea.
Coming on Discovery this fall. I feel like they could totally do a show, but it would be like cis straight men upset that their wives read too many romance novels.
Who is watching that?
Someone would.
Yeah, sure. Do it. Content, baby.
In extreme youth pastor voice. You know who else was concerned about content? Dr. Faustus.
Oh, the tie-in.
So, we are here to discuss Dr. Faustus.
Dr. Disgustus.
What?
Nothing. I thought it rhymed. I told you I'm a lapsed English major.
The play by Christopher Marlowe. It's definitely considered his...
most famous one.
Definitely his most famous work.
Yeah.
Probably considered his best by most people. By the kind of people who think about it. What I have learned so far is that I routinely talk about literature and I'll be like, yeah, and like everyone considers this to be, and I find myself talking to people who are like, I have no opinions. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know why we're here. So before we commence,
okay,
a question for you first, actually.
All right.
Are you familiar with Dr. Faustus at all?
Yes. I know that I read it at some point, or I read parts of it, or I listened to a lecture on it and then had to write probably a paper. I used to know.
You're like, I skimmed it in a panic in undergrad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I read at least parts of it. Do I remember the plot? No. Do I remember the historical context? No. Do I remember the greater effects of it in literature that came afterwards? No. This is my relationship with most English literature, is that I know who the important authors are and what the important influential works of literature are. And that serves me well in my obsession with crossword puzzles.
That is how I feel about most TV and also cars. Like when people start talking about cars, I'm like, Toyotas. I remember those.
I have also heard of Ford.
I am participating. I know that Subarus are good.
Feel the love.
And lesbians like them because of an advertising campaign in the 90s.
It was because of an advertising campaign? I thought it was because of their reliability.
No, Subaru was like the first car company to be like, hey, you know who no one's advertising at? The queers.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
I thought we just loved a hatchback.
No. I mean, I too thought my attraction to Subarus was just like the magnetic pull of any bisexual woman, but no.
Yeah.
No.
Marketing.
Everything comes down to marketing.
Yeah. I'm secure enough to admit that.
It's fair.
Yeah.
And you know who else is great at marketing?
What you can't see is every time she does this, she's like takes this stance that can only be described as youth pastor stance. She like turns her whole body towards me and props her hand up on her knee. If only you had a chair in front of you that you could turn around and like sit the wrong way on.
Yeah, the furniture is not quite right for that.
No.
But
We'll get you a chair next time.
I'm a youth pastor for Satan.
That sounds so much cooler.
All right. So now you and I watched a movie adaptation of Dr. Faustus at one point.
Uh-huh.
And it was...
It was on film.
It was a movie.
It was there on that screen.
Yeah. I hadn't read the play yet at that point either and had no idea what was happening.
No.
Okay. So broadly, you're a blank slate where Faustus and Marlowe are
the
concerned.
blankest.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that, honestly.
Yeah.
Because Marlowe contemporarily was very successful and like has earned his place sort of in the literary canon for various reasons.
Okay.
But it's not like Shakespeare.
Okay.
I feel like most people are going to be like, who? Like the kind of people who aren't for funsies being like, this weekend, I'm going to read some I'm going to read some fragments of Elizabethan plays. So I need to kick off with, here's our SAT word for the day, with some metatextual.
Oh. Am I a metatextual? Podcast is changing. The tone is changing.
I think I'm pretty metatextual. I wonder how long it would take. Mm-hmm. Like if you were talking to a bro at a bar and you were like, yeah, like I'm metatextual.
How long it would take for him to question that?
Uh-huh.
We can find out tonight.
You'd be like, is that some kind of polyamory I haven't heard of? Or... So there are a couple of important things. There are two extant versions of this play because the Elizabethans were not super great at archival work.
Oh.
And plays were popular culture.
Yeah.
And weren't printed.
Were plays kind of lowbrow at the time almost?
Yeah, they were. I would say, so there were lowbrow plays, there were middlebrow plays. So, like, the queen would sometimes have plays performed at court, but also the theater broadly was considered, like, sinful and dirty and licentious.
Yeah.
And to make a modern parallel, I would say that Christopher Marlowe's work was like prestige television.
Oh, okay.
And contemporarily was known for pushing the envelope and being transgressive. So, like, we're talking, like, Breaking Bad, maybe? The kind of thing, like, everyone has seen it. Everyone is talking about it. You're getting some think pieces about how it's destroying the culture.
What does it mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we'll call it Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Roughly. But by the nature of it, just because of the way that theater worked, plays weren't published in like book version often until long, long after they'd been originally written. And, really only if they stood the test of time. The original manuscript as he would have written it would have been physically handed to the theater company that performed it and then would have been copied, and copies would have been made of the copies and copied by hand.
Yeah.
And it would have been distributed that way.
Yeah.
There is no version of the play anywhere in existence that is 100%. This is what Christopher Marlowe wrote from beginning to end. It is 100% accurate. We know he wrote it. We know only he wrote it, and nothing has been changed. That's not real.
That is really interesting. Yeah.
And so we have two major versions. We have the A text and the B text. Very creatively named.
Shade.
One is from 1604 and one is from 1616. Had to double check.
Oh, that's quite a gap.
It's quite a gap. Also, Christopher Marlowe died in 1593.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. The math.
The math does not math.
No.
Christopher Marlowe dies in 1593.
All right.
The play is put on for the first time after he's dead.
Okay.
Or maybe right before he died, but like somewhere, I'm pretty sure it didn't make it to the stage until he had died. He sold it.
Yeah.
Maybe it was in rehearsal. I'm not really sure how the timeline works out.
Yeah.
The only extant text we have is from after he dies.
Okay.
We also have literal physical receipts that someone paid to have additions made to the play.
Oh, you could do that?
Yeah.
You can't do that now. Right?
Yeah, the idea of the playwright as like sacrosanct author is not really a thing the Elizabethans go for.
Okay.
Plays were fluid. They were constantly changing. every version of Shakespeare that you read is a combination of a ton of different source texts that editors have slowly refined down to the version of the play that you read.
The folios?
The folios.
The folios. Haha, I do remember one thing.
But the thing about Shakespeare is that they have been reconciled down to the point where scholars broadly agree on what is kind of a fair representation of each play.
Yeah.
And the version you pick up at the bookstore is not going to be much, if any, different from any other version you pick up from a different publishing house or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
The A and B texts of Faustus are very different. And I have spent so much time in the last couple of weeks reading my favorite genre of academic commentary.
I can't tell if it's sarcastic or not.
No, it genuinely is my favorite because academics are so fucking mean to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Paper after paper and essay after essay of people who either think the A text is more accurate or the B text is more accurate. Which parts of the A and B text are clearly the product of Marlowe, and which parts of the text are clearly additions by like a less talented author down the line. They're all full of passages that are like, if Greg had taken a moment to think about the implications of this word, he would understand that he's clearly wrong.
So petty.
It's very petty.
I'm getting flashbacks to like the attitudes of my English professors. I don't know. This is hitting very viscerally for me where I'm like, yeah, they did seem kind of fucking petty.
I get it. You know, when you devote huge portions of your time to something,
Yeah.
you're going to build up some grievances, some soft spots.
English majors are good at communicating, but not our feelings.
But boy, are we great at writing the academic equivalent of diss tracks.
Yeah.
And they're so pointed and they're all calling each other out by name.
Oh, God.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
There's one academic, I think it's like W.W. Greg. I just know his last name is Greg. And he's
That fucking guy.
He's all over the scholarship.
Everyone hates Greg.
Everyone is very upset with Greg. And it was, like every other essay I opened, it was just like, oh, there's Greg again. The A text and the B text. I'm an A text girl.
Oh. She's taken a stance.
The A text is shorter. It's more fragmentary. It's also much more nuanced.
Okay.
It's much more psychological.
Cool.
The B text has clearly been updated for 1616. The long and the short of it is that the B text has had a lot of the heresy sanded off the edges.
Boo.
Yeah. And as we all know, I'm here for the heresy. You know who else was here for heresy?
No, he was here. He was specifically here. Wait, no, I'm getting that wrong. Oh, yeah, he was here for heresy.
Also, you know, sacrilege, apostasy. The problem is that the B text was significantly more attractive to academics for a long time because it is longer, it's more polished, it presents a more complete play. Although a lot of the stuff in the middle that makes it seem more cohesive is like comedic scenes. Like it's the kind of stuff you like shove in to make the play a little bit longer and to make sure that people are engaged. And then other than that, the biggest sort of places where they diverge are places that make the B text into a significantly more kind of straightforward morality play. So we're going to focus mostly on the A text.
Okay.
I am going to try and give you like at least a little bit of what's extra in the B text.
The problem is with the B text, now that you said that there's fluffy little comedic scenes, I'm just imagining, you're like, and meanwhile, you're going to be like, and meanwhile in the B text, they were running around with like pool noodles and like blow up hammers and just bonking each other, slapstick style.
I mean, that's kind of.
Wait, what's the Benny Hill music?
Oh. I mean, almost. It's like everything but.
Okay. B stands for Benny Hill.
B stands for Benny. It's the Benny Hill text.
Okay.
Man, our scholarship is just going to blow the...
Greg out of the water.
Yeah. Greg.
Sorry to Greg if you hear this.
Yeah.
I've never met you.
I think he might be dead.
Rest in peace, Greg.
R.I.P. Greg. Greg is dead and we killed him.
Oh, God.
I think I read a few academics who would like to. The only other note I'm going to make really quick is that I am working from the Norton Critical Edition of Dr. Faustus.
Ah, yes.
Edited by David Scott Caston.
Shout out David.
Kastan. David, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
Yeah.
And they're not giving me any money, but I just want to take a moment to say how much I fucking love Norton Critical Editions.
Yeah.
They are the best.
Very helpful.
If you want to just pick a text up for the first time and then be like, I now know everything I functionally need to know.
Yeah. So glad I paid thousands and thousands of dollars for a degree when I could have bought this book for $14.99.
Norton Critical Editions, I love you. And then the only other book I need to call out is I am relying on Constance Brown Kuriyama's 2002 biography of Marlowe called Christopher Marlowe, A Renaissance Life.
Shout out Constance.
I chose Constance because she is the most determinedly stick in the mud of all of his biographers. And I'll explain this more later, but anytime there's like a fun interpretation and a realistic interpretation, she's just like, no one gets to have any fun. And when you are trying to sort through a lot of speculation, it can be really nice to just have the unfun.
Yeah.
And she's so stern. I love her.
Constance.
She died recently, and I was so sad. I was going to email her about how much I liked this book because she is so devastatingly funny in that very quiet academic way. And she'll just be like, some scholars would have you think, does that seem likely? And you're like, well, no, Constance, it doesn't.
Ouch. Constance with the burn.
It would have been fun, but you're right, I guess.
Gotta get a little sunscreen before you deal with Constance.
She's an excellent writer, and if anybody wants a
no fun allowed,
an absolutely like accurate, goes back to the documents, wildly unfun but very well written biography of Christopher Marlowe, Constance is your girl.
All right, noted.
So that's all of my metatextual notes. If you have complaints about my preference for the A text, or are upset about my glossing over the B text, or wish I'd used a different edition than the Norton Critical, why are you listening to this podcast?
It's called Didn't Read It.
I feel like there is an academic conference missing you somewhere.
Cram it in your cram hole.
Go find Greg.
Yeah.
And get scolded with him.
Start a rival podcast called I Did Read It. And actually,
if anyone wants to start a rival podcast, I acutely need a nemesis in my life.
Oh, yeah.
I've been really feeling the lack of a nemesis.
Yeah.
I welcome anyone to start a podcast aimed at dissing my podcast.
It's very motivating.
It would be fun, you know? We could have little dance-offs.
Oh.
Read-offs.
Oh. Sleepovers.
Braid each other's hair.
Yeah. How long's your hair, Greg? Oh, he's... I'm sorry.
All right. So I am going to try and tell you the story of Dr. Faustus. So, the tragical...
You just open the book and start reading? I'm like, oh.
We're going to be here for 70 hours.
Oh, God.
The play is set in Germany during the reign of Emperor Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor.
Side note, I was in Germany recently and I found out I went to Nuremberg, which was once a seat of the Holy Roman Empire, at which point I found out that the Holy Roman Empire did not have one seat. It was a traveling court. And there were a few seats throughout Europe where they went and stayed. I don't know if it was like 10 months or something. And then they moved on somewhere else.
I did not know that.
Who's teaching who?
Thank you for filling me in. What is important is that it is set in Germany essentially a little bit earlier than when Marlowe would have been writing it.
Okay.
And Dr. Faustus is an academic. He is from Württemberg. Württemberg, which was at the time a hotbed of like radical Protestant activity. So we're building the details, right?
Yeah.
It's noted that Dr. Faustus was, quote, born of base stock.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. So he doesn't, he's not nobility. He is essentially, he has raised himself up in the world through study and hard work.
Bootstraps kind of guy.
Bootstraps
My
kind of
kind
guy.
of guy.
And specifically, he's raised himself up through academia. He has a doctorate. The play opens in good tragical I can't get over the word tragical.
Oh, that's a real word.
Yeah, it is. Here, wait, I'll show you.
The tragical history and life and death. Dr. Faustus is the title.
Yep. And there's a nice little engraving of Dr. Faustus with the devil he has summoned.
Hey, sup, devil?
And so after, in proper tragical fashion, we open with a chorus who gives us this like quick and dirty backstory on Faustus.
Mm-hmm. Previously in Dr. Faustus.
And they give us a little bit of a preview, which is, you know, he's excelled in academia, and now we cut to him in his study. And he delivers a monologue. This is what you do in plays, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dudes be monologuing.
And in real life, too.
That is true.
Art imitates life.
And what he kind of does is he runs through the major kind of schools of knowledge.
Like you do when you're alone in your office.
Like you do. What he's doing is basically telling the audience, and I guess himself, how he feels he's reached kind of the limits of human knowledge.
Oh.
So he goes through Aristotle, you know, you kind of get some of the heavy hitters, and he talks about medicine, and he talks about law.
He's like, I know all four humors.
And he's basically, it's a little bit like he's bored, you know?
He's the gifted kid in the class. He's not being challenged enough.
Yeah. He wants to know more.
Poor Fausty.
And the last thing he turns to is theology.
You know who else? Theology.
And he says, when all is done, divinity is best. And then the first line he reads out of the Bible is, should I try the Latin?
Yes.
Stipendium peccati mors est, which he translates for us very helpfully as the reward of sin is death.
Ooh.
And he goes on to say, if we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and there's no truth in us. Why then we must sin, and so consequently die. We must die an everlasting death. What doctrine call you this? Que sera, sera? What will be, shall be? Divinity, a Jew. And he's like,
it really says que sera, sera.
it does. I saw that and was like, huh, that's an older turn of phrase than I realized. So he dismisses divinity. The only thing left, right, like the only major school of academics in the sort of Elizabethan man's repertoire is magic and necromancy.
Oh.
Oh.
You don't say. Did it just get warm in here?
Hey.
Necromantic in here? Sorry.
Faustus looked at all of his books and said, girl, I'm trying to get necromantic in here on a bearskin rug. Well, so he calls for his servant and sends for Valdez and Cornelius because they are apparently magicians.
Hashtag Saturday night with the girls.
Hashtag necromantic. Faustus, try thy brains to gain a deity. He's like, all right, that's it. I'm gonna push the limits of human knowledge. I am going all in on sorcery. So he sends his servant off to go fetch these magician dudes who are apparently going to teach him how to do all this stuff. And for the first time, we meet the good and evil angel.
Oh, one angel who was both good and evil?
Two angels.
Two angels.
The good angel and the evil angel, who just appear every so often to lecture him.
Annoying.
Yeah, very. And it's pretty predictable. The good angel's like, Faustus, you're going to lose your soul. And the bad angel's like, do it.
Is this the first appearance of like, you know, you got the angel on your shoulder and the devil on your shoulder? That kind of thing?
Kind of.
Okay.
So Marlowe is drawing on what would have at the time been a outdated concept used in like morality plays where you had good and evil angels. But as far as I know, he was the first one to use them in this way where they are dialoguing with the person that they are convincing.
Okay.
So yeah, I think the way he uses them is much closer to
Looney Tunes.
Yeah, and probably the inspiration for it.
Just immediately my mind was just like Bugs Bunny. It's Bugs Bunny.
I think of Kronk.
I love Kronk.
The good and evil angel come in, they scold him, he ignores them. It's funny, the good and evil angels will come in, they'll say something, and he'll repeat it to himself. It's kind of unclear in, I think, a cool way, whether he hears them and whether they are like literal angels.
Yeah.
Or if they are personifying his conflicting thoughts.
That leaves a lot of cool interpretation up to like the director of the play if you're going to stage it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the only version of the play that I tracked down, they massively overdid the good and evil angels. They were like sword fighting and stuff. And I was like, this is...
All right.
So the good and evil angels leave. He monologues for a while about all the cool stuff he's going to do once he has magic. What's important is that the first thing he says is that he shall make the spirits resolve him of all ambiguities.
Interesting.
They're going to answer all of his questions.
Oh, okay.
And then he immediately goes into kind of a pretty standard, like, I'm going to have them get me gold, and I'm going to kick like a prince out of a kingdom, like just fantasies,
Classic.
of power and money.
Mm-hmm.
But he always starts with knowledge.
I'm realizing I made a reaction face and no reaction noise. And this is a podcast. My face was...
So yeah, he always kicks off with knowledge and then kind of goes into the money and the power. You know, he says he's going to have them read him strange philosophy and tell him all the secrets of foreign kings. And then he goes on some weird little power trips about how he's going to like move rivers and wall all Germany with brass and give fill the public schools with silk, wherewith the students shall be bravely clad.
Whatever you're into, bro.
Yeah, he's going to raise armies. The unchecked fantasies of a man who is an upstart, right?
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like the pursuit of knowledge drove him into contemplating all of this magic stuff.
Yeah.
But he can't resist the money and power stuff too, right?
What would Steve Jobs do with all the power? Oh.
I was like, I don't know.
Ew. Stop.
So Cornelius and Valdez show up. They tell him that they're going to teach him how to do
magic,
necromancy, summoning demons, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They all talk to each other for a while about all the money and power.
It's going to be great.
Etc. There's an intermediary, very brief comedic scene with his servant Wagner.
I think Wagner.
I
don't speak German.
Yeah, I don't know. We're going to skip a lot of the comedic scenes.
But the goofiness. But the sillies.
In true Elizabethan fashion, most of the comedic scenes rely on wordplay that just does not carry forward into the 21st century.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Like, they have a back and forth that they're like, where's thy master? And he's like, God in heaven knows. And he's like, what, don't you know? And he's like, yeah, I know, but that follows not. And I just...
The audiences at the time would have been spitting out their warm beer.
Roaring with laughter.
Yeah.
The comedic bits get better later. Long and short of it is, Faustus summons the devil.
Dun, dun, dun.
Or more specifically, a demon.
Okay.
Named Mephistopheles.
I have heard that name. It's all coming back. One thing is coming back.
Good old Mephistopheles.
Mephistopheles. Great name.
It's a fantastic name.
Did Marlowe make up that name or was it a
I think it is an existing biblical name.
Okay.
So he summons Mephistopheles and...
Get in here, you silly guy. Get on in here.
Get on in here, buddy.
Join the party.
Mephistopheles comes in dressed as a devil and Faustus tells him to go away and come back dressed as a Franciscan friar.
Okay.
Because he says the holy shape becomes a devil best.
Oh, that seems...
Zing.
Yeah.
They have a bit of a dialogue and Faustus is clearly very arrogant about everything that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Because he's like, I just summoned a fucking devil.
Well, right. So the first thing he says is, I got you to come here.
Mm-hmm.
And Mephistopheles is like, no. He's like, no, that wasn't you doing magic. It was just because you were blaspheming willy-nilly. And anytime someone starts blaspheming in such a serious fashion, we show up to see if we can take their soul.
Ooh.
Sick burn.
Yeah. You thought you did something there.
But Faustus doesn't seem to believe him. He's a very arrogant character. They have a bit of a dialogue and Faustus is like, look, go back to your boss. Go back to Lucifer. Mm-hmm. Tell him he can have my soul if I can, for 24 years, have magic powers and you as my servant and, you know, all the...
24 years just...
Yeah, I don't 100% know what the significance of 24 years is. I mean, I guess he's already supposed to be a grown...
I mean, everybody wants to retire at some point, you know. You don't want to work forever.
Well, after the 24 years, he goes literally to hell. So that's what happens when you sell your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forgot about that part.
Yeah.
Tiny detail.
Just a small...
Just It's a little thing to remember. 24 years. Dream bigger, buddy.
It does not seem like enough.
I know.
I mean, I guess if you're
The
dealing...
life expectancy wasn't that long back then.
That's what I was going to say. If you're dealing with an Elizabethan lifespan, the guarantee of not dying for a span of 24 years would actually be pretty good.
Yeah.
What with the plague.
Yeah. Ooh. Ouchie.
The constant plagues. And so they have a little bit of...
They chit chat.
Well, before they strike the deal, they have this really strange dialogue where Faustus is quizzing Mephistopheles on the nature of hell.
Oh, you're from hell? Oh, you like hell? Name 5 things in hell.
So it's clearly meant to kind of underline, it's meant to provide some like bitter irony to everything that's happening in like Faustus's arrogance, because he basically says that hell isn't real. He's like, I'm not afraid of damnation because I don't think hell is real. I don't think that souls persist after death. I think it's all essentially a old wives' tale.
You know, if that's the gamble you want to take, bro.
Faustus says, was not that Lucifer an angel once? It says, yes, Faustus, and most dearly loved of God. And what are you that live with Lucifer? Unhappy spirits that fell with Lucifer, conspired against our God with Lucifer, and are forever damned with Lucifer. And Faustus says, where are you damned? And Mephistopheles replies, in hell. Right?
But
then he says, well, then how comes it then that you aren't in hell right now? And he says, why, this is hell, nor am I out of it. Thinkest thou that I, who saw the face of God and tasted the eternal joys of heaven, am not tormented with 10,000 hells in being deprived of everlasting bliss? O Faustus, leave these frivolous demands which strike a terror to my fainting soul. And this is the demon that's been sent to get his soul.
yeah.
And then Faustus lectures Mephistopheles
Bro.
on essentially, learn thou of Faustus manly fortitude and scorn those joys thou never shalt possess.
Jesus Christ.
Faustus is kind of vacillating between hell isn't real and we are damned anyway.
It's like, get over it, bro.
Get over it, bro. But also, what he essentially says, one of the first things he's establishing right at the outset of the play, is that he believes himself to be damned. And if you are already damned,
Go ahead.
why not get something out of it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, not selling your soul doesn't automatically mean you get to go to heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they have this dialogue.
It's just kind of sad that the demon's like, I'm not happy. Oh, you think I'm happy? I'm not happy doing this. You should get out while you can.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like this is I'm gonna
Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis, Tennessee. Mephistopheles is a complicated and surprisingly nuanced character for being
a demon.
A demon, yeah.
Just like Angel and Buffy.
I'm sure the writers of Buffy were sitting around
Poring over
Marlowe.
Yeah.
So Mephistopheles goes back to hell to give the devil Faustus's terms. We get a comedic scene where a drunk servant threatens to fight demons, and then the demons scare him, and there's a bunch of sex jokes in there.
Hey.
About how he, I'll tell you how you shall know them. All he-devils has horns, and all she-devils has clefts and cloven feet.
Ooh, genitals.
And as the footnote that I could not resist highlighting is clefts, split hooves, parentheses, but also vaginas. Thank you, footnote.
Thanks, Norton.
We get the comedic aside. Faustus is sitting alone in his study, waiting for Mephistopheles to come back. The good angel and the bad angel show up again.
Oh.
And Faustus is talking to himself about how he is already damned. Says, now Faustus must thou needs be damned, and that canst thou not be saved. What boots it then to think of God or heaven, away with such vain fancies and despair? God loves thee not. And then the good angel and the bad angel do some lecturing.
I'm sure he listens wholeheartedly and really takes everything they say just and runs with it.
Yeah. No, he definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's paying a lot of attention, especially.
I am understanding this play.
Yeah. And then he tells Mephistopheles to go back to hell.
He's like, you know what?
And they all live happily ever after.
Yes. And scene.
And the end.
Cool. Well, this was fun recording this podcast.
It's amazing that it... So Mephistopheles comes back. They strike the deal. There's a whole thing where he cuts himself to write the deal in his own blood.
Oh, you gotta.
You gotta.
I mean, yeah.
Do some pomp and circumstance when
Everybody
you're selling your
knows that.
soul.
Yeah.
And there's a weird thing where his blood clots. It's like his body is attempting to keep him from signing the deal.
Like, please.
He ignores it. And then he hallucinates.
I'm sensing a theme.
And then he hallucinates that his blood is actually spelling homofuge, which means man, flee. It's his arm blood is doing the
like,
Gandalf.
bro.
Yeah. It's doing like the fly, you fools. And he's like, this is fine. This is fine.
That probably doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, he starts to second guess it. Mephistopheles summons some like spirits from hell to give him a little bit of a song and dance.
A little, yeah. A little jazz. Got jazz it up.
Give him the old razzle dazzle.
Yeah.
You know, that works because he's very distractible. He's a little cat-like.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. And then he sells his soul. His soul is sold.
It gets, signed, sealed, delivered. It's a whole thing.
Yeah. So he's got 24 years. And characteristically, the first thing he asks about again is knowledge.
How big? Oh,
yeah.
how big?
Again, he asks Mephistopheles about hell. Again, Mephistopheles is like, hell is everywhere. We are in hell. Hell has no limits. Hell is just everywhere that's not heaven. And Faustus is like, I think hell's a fable.
I love how he keeps asking him about it. Like he knows he's wrong, but he's just like, I think it's fine. It's going to be fine.
He's like, hell's fake. And Mephistopheles is like, yeah, you can think that until you...
Mephistopheles is like, okay.
Until you wind up in it.
Yeah.
And he specifically says, like, I am damned and now in hell. And Faustus is like, oh, you're in hell? No, he's like, oh, you're in hell now? So this is hell? Well, if this is hell, then I'll just, that's fine. You can damn me to here.
Yeah, I like my office. My office is fine.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He's kind of running through, all right, I've got my powers now, and he's ticking some boxes. The next thing he asks for is a wife.
You gotta.
But complication.
Uh-oh.
Mephistopheles says, no, absolutely not. And Faustus insists. He's like, you said you would give me anything I wanted. And so the stage direction is, enter Mephistopheles with a devil dressed like a woman with fireworks.
That's how I like to enter any room. Yeah.
Who in the production I saw like chases Faustus around for a little while, and Mephistopheles is like, how do you like your wife? And he's like, a plague on her for a hot whore.
I was like, that's not what I meant.
And Mephistopheles is basically like, bro, I will get you so many babes. I can get you any babes you want. Can't get you a wife.
Is the idea that you sold your soul, they didn't sell their soul. I can't make them.
I mean,
I can make them bone you, but I can't make them like love you.
I think yes, but also like matrimony is an inherently holy state.
Oh.
And they can't give him matrimony.
He's doing the thing where he just is like gesturing at himself. He's like, do you see this? You see, I'm a devil. I'm a devil. We don't do the whole priests in the church thing.
That's the other
walking
guy.
Down the aisle. Yeah.
That's the other people.
Come on, man.
That was the good angel.
Yeah.
And Faustus is like, yeah, okay, fine. No wife for me. Whatever.
Want to wife my wife.
It's fine. His relationship with Mephistopheles winds up being kind of homoerotic anyway.
Yes.
And then the last thing he asks for, and this is not in the B text, is he asks for a book that contains not just all of the spells that he can do now that he has magic, but has all characters and planets of the heavens, that I might know their motions and dispositions, and all plants, herbs, and trees that grow upon the earth. So
I'd like to know that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially in like 15 whatever.
Oh yeah.
That's big stuff. No one knows those things.
No. I need some help with that stuff now.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at gardening.
That's fair.
Yeah.
He sells his soul, and basically in order, he's like, I want to understand the nature of heaven and hell, and I want a wife.
Can't. Sorry.
Yeah. And then I want all the knowledge that is beyond my grasp.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah. And he gets most of it.
Best I can do. Best I can do is eternal damnation.
And then there's another comedic scene where one of the servants gets a hold of one of Faustus's books and is attempting to cast spells.
You little dum-dum.
It's much dirtier than in the B text.
Ah.
Like, a lot of this has been sanded out of the B text, and he's talking about, I'm going to make all the girls in town dance naked before me, and I'm going to, like, have sex with my boss's wife. I'm going to, like, cuckold my boss, and I'm going to have sex with the kitchen maid.
Isn't his boss Dr. Faustus?
Different boss, I think.
Oh, okay. Serf's life, you know.
Yeah.
Got a lot of bosses.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
And then we cut straight to Faustus already regretting the decisions he's made.
Who could have foreseen this? Not me, not Fausti, not you. Mm-mm.
No one could have done it.
No.
And so we kind of began a series of tail-chasing monologues that continue for the rest of the play, where he's like, this was a bad idea.
I've made a terrible mistake.
I should repent. And the good angel and the evil angel will show up, and the good angel will be like, if you repent, it's not too late. And the evil angel will be like, it's definitely too late. And Faustus will be like, yeah, you're right. I can't repent.
Yeah.
I'm not going to repent.
If only anyone had tried to warn me.
If only I had any indication that this was bad. Intermittently, he'll be like, I should really repent. And there's like an old man who shows up a couple of times to be like, Faustus, repent.
The old man. How's he know?
He's just an old man. He's
Just an old guy.
He's at the
He's
college.
like, I saw it all.
Yeah, he's at the college, and he's trying to save Faustus's soul.
All right.
I think maybe we're meant to understand that he's a member of the college. Again, these are fragmentary.
The walls are thin.
Yeah.
He heard it all.
Yeah.
Go down.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's a small school, you know, word gets around.
And intermittently, either Mephistopheles or Satan himself will show up and threaten Faustus
It's for fun.
to keep him from repenting. They'll be like, you signed a contract. Yeah. In some of the middle bits, you kind of start to feel like Mephistopheles is doing a little bit of a slimy lawyer thing, where he's like, you signed.
Yeah.
These are the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
And you keep talking about God, and we don't like it.
Yeah.
It's upsetting us. And we'd like you to stop.
I wonder if repenting really would do anything.
Well, that's one of the major central questions of the play.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we're going to
get there.
We're going to talk a little bit later about like the Reformation and Calvinism versus Catholicism.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
The rest of the play, I don't want to get too nitty gritty because it's Elizabethan, and these scenes are simultaneously very short and also weirdly tedious in a lot of ways. I want to be clear. I love this play. I love reading this play.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fun to watch it performed.
Okay. Have you seen it live?
I have not seen it live, but I found a recording of
you said that,
the production they did at the Globe.
Oh, that would be cool.
Several years ago, and it was really good, except for the Good and Evil Angels, which they just massively overdid.
Take notes, Globe.
I don't know what they were thinking. So he gets a little too close to repenting. Lucifer shows up and puts on a pageant.
Drag. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that'd be fun. He puts on a pageant that's kind of an inversion of medieval morality play, where all the different vices
Love a play within a play.
come trotting up from hell and introduce themselves.
Yeah.
You know, gluttony, sloth, lechery.
All the fun ones.
All the fun ones.
Yeah.
The format of it is kind of funny. They all start by introducing their parents. It's
what? I didn't know Lust had had parents.
Yeah, well, it's
me. I'm Lust.
It's
I do have parents. Never mind. I did know that.
Let me find lechery.
Here's my dad, Steve.
Oh, lechery doesn't actually introduce themselves as having parents. Gluttony's parents are all dead.
All of them.
Envy was begotten of a chimney sweeper and an oyster wife. You know, like you do.
You to say that. All right.
Envy says, I cannot read and therefore wish all books were burned, which I highlighted because
that is relevant. Oh, it's a little too close to home.
It's actually, I'm gonna really quick read you Envy's little.
That's another great t-shirt idea, just so you know.
I am Envy, begotten of a chimney sweeper and an oyster wife. I cannot read and therefore wish all books were burned. I am lean with seeing others eat. Oh, that there would come a famine through all the world, that all might die and I live alone.
He sounds pretty envious.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
My favorite, though, in like a sort of memeable hashtag me, is I am sloth. I was begotten on a sunny bank where I have lain ever since, and you have done me a great injury to bring me from thence.
Yeah. Fucking mood.
I'll not speak another word for king's ransom. And that's it.
I didn't ask to be born.
I'm sloth. Leave me alone.
I was fucking chilling on a riverbank, bro. It was so sunny.
So that does a decent enough job distracting Faustus, long enough for him and Mephistopheles to apparently A, bond a little bit, and
Love it.
B, go adventuring. Isn't that nice?
I mean, if you're going to go to hell, at least you get to hang out with Mephistopheles, you know?
He flies Faustus all over the world. So he
Daddy.
gets to see. It does kind of have daddy vibes.
What?
So they fly all over the world. In the A text, it's kind of abbreviated. In the B text, they spend more time on it.
Yeah.
They flew around on a dragon.
Mephistopheles.
Dragon daddy.
Traveling in style.
And then they go to bully the Pope together.
Perfect first date idea. Fly around on a dragon and go bully the Pope.
In the best comedic scene that has the most to do with the actual plot. They go to Rome. Mephistopheles makes them both invisible.
Mm-hmm.
They go into a room where the Pope and a bunch of cardinals are having like dinner and stuff. And they just start like throwing things and hitting them with stuff and just scaring the shit out of them.
How was this play allowed?
Well, because this is Elizabeth I.
I have a very hard time with history, so you gotta dumb it down.
At this point in England, Catholics may as well be Satanists.
Okay, so it's like, yeah, make fun of the Catholics.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And Faustus is a good Protestant.
Yeah.
Who sold his soul to the devil, but is still a good Protestant.
It's fine.
I'm doing that because I'm unclear of what the conclusion of this is, because bullying the Pope is good,
Always.
but selling your soul is bad.
What's the problem?
But bullying the Pope is good?
You seem confused. I personally am not confused. I understand all of it.
Oh.
I can't explain it to you.
Oh, okay.
Because you wouldn't get it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's farcical. It's meant to be farcical. They're like moving stuff around. They're throwing things. They're hitting people on the head with stuff. They keep... You're fired.
Okay.
They're like literally snatching food and drink out of their hands.
Yeah.
And
Classic.
My favorite part is that at one point, one of the priests is like, it must be a spirit that can't rest come to beg a pardon of your holiness, the Pope. And they're like, fuck that spirit.
Can I quote you on that, Mr. Pope?
Yeah, they start cursing the spirit. Cursed be he that stole away his holiness's meat from the table. Cursed be he that struck his holiness a blow on the face.
Doesn't take much for them to start cursing people. I don't think you're supposed to curse people.
I know, right? That's
if I remember anything from Mass growing up, I don't think we were supposed to do that.
No, it's not very nice.
Just because he spilled your water over?
So they go bully the Pope for a while, and that's fun. In the B text... This is a much bigger subplot where they're rescuing a Protestant from the Pope and taking him back to the Holy Roman Empire.
The Pope just had a Protestant like tied up and was like,
well, it was a real guy actually. It was Giordano Bruno, who was one of the anti-popes that got put up during all of the Reformation back and forth. Well, because during the Reformation, there were multiple people who were claiming that it was their right to be Pope.
Oh.
Because things were getting weird.
I kind of feel the same way today.
Honestly, yeah. I'm the Pope.
Make me the Pope.
I want to be the Pope.
Why not?
So there's this whole thing in the B text where they rescue Giordano Bruno and they take him back to the Holy Roman Emperor. They are rescuing him from execution.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
This is probably one of those things that was not in the original play, because while Giordano Bruno was alive contemporarily with Marlowe, he was also executed after Marlowe died. And the reference to it in the play is very clearly a reference to his execution.
Yeah.
It's not beyond the pale that Marlowe could have anticipated a man the Catholic Church considered a heretic getting burned alive. That's not a stretch.
Yeah. But it seems like it was a crowd pleaser added in later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, here's Michael Jordan, ladies and gentlemen. And everyone's like, oh, yay.
Yeah, it's very much like, and here's a political side plot to make the current king and queen feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
I much prefer it when they just go bully the Pope for funsies.
Oh.
Mostly because it feels much more broadly like a critique of the church and not just Catholics. It feels more heretical when it's just like, hey, you want to go bully the Pope?
Yeah.
And also the Pope sucks and the cardinals suck.
Yeah. Have you thought about the ramifications of this particular section of this episode for your ranking in the Apple podcast, the iTunes store?
Bullying the Pope?
Yeah, say it again. Yeah. Like she's holding up the book. I'm just reading the book.
It is in the literature.
Okay. I'm just doing what Marlowe said.
Exactly. And he was full of really good advice.
Clearly.
Yeah. There's another comedic interlude where the two servants conjure Mephistopheles to like try and get away with stealing something, and he turns them into a dog and a monkey.
Oh,
they were kind of asking for it.
Yeah.
So then he goes to see the Holy Roman Emperor, and this is where it starts to become very apparent that after doing all the work of selling his soul, he's basically doing glorified magic tricks. He's not doing any of the stuff he said he was going to do. A guy pisses him off, so he puts cuckold's horns on his head. A pregnant lady is like, you know what, I would like some grapes, and he has spirits bring her grapes from the other side of the world.
Woo.
He bullies the Pope.
Maybe he's trying to pace himself.
He can't pace himself. He's running out of time.
He had 24 years.
Well, it's going pretty quickly.
Uh-oh. Okay.
He promised himself all of these things when he was making the deal with the devil, and they all involved being very rich and very powerful, and he's still operating very much in the same power structures. Like he's got money.
Yeah.
He's become richer, but he's not doing anything.
Yeah. He's dreaming small.
He's dreaming small.
Little leagues. Amateur hour over here.
Well, it kind of, I think that like so many people, when he finally had power within his grasp, he realized that he could not rise to meet it.
Aw.
Yeah.
Buddy. It's like I say, I always want to win the lottery, but if I did, I'd probably just buy a lot of gummy bears.
And I mean, is he being held back because he can't bring himself to like fully grasp the powers that he's been granted by Satan? Is he, after all, just not capable of really using these powers in a way that makes it worth it? The play has, it's very ambiguous.
Yeah.
But he is running out of time. It is not going well. He is descending into despair.
Oh, he knows he's not doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He threatens to kill himself. Mephistopheles hands him a knife.
He's like, yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. The old man shows up and tells him not to kill himself and tries to convince him still that he can repent and that it's going to work. And he's just like, no, I can't. I can't.
Shut up.
I cannot repent. And then he makes one of his last requests, which is he wants Helen of Troy as his lover.
Oh.
And Mephistopheles.
Why not?
Right? Why not?
Yeah. So, me too.
Yeah. So Mephistopheles, in an attempt to distract him so that he can, because it's very important that he not repent. Maybe.
Yeah.
It depends on the theology of.
I mean, definitely just don't go there, you know?
Yeah.
Don't. Let's just not talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. Repenting's so boring, you wouldn't like it.
Exactly.
It's spicy, you wouldn't like it.
And besides, Helen of Troy is here and she wants to have sex with you. And this, I would bet a couple of dollars that you are probably familiar with. This is probably the one passage from this play that you're going to be like, yes.
Lay it on me.
Was this the face that launched 1,000 ships and burned the topless towers of Ilium?
I have heard this.
Sweet Helen, make me immortal with a kiss. Her lips suck forth my soul. See where it flies. Come, Helen, come. Give me my soul again. Here will I dwell, for heaven be in these lips, and all is dross that is not Helena.
I have heard that. It's real nice.
It's a very famous.
No one ever said that to me.
Well, and he goes on for a little longer. But what's interesting is this is one of those things that floats around divorced of context. And then people are like, it's so romantic. But he's saying it to what we have already established is not actually Helen of Troy.
Is a demon in a toga.
It's just a hot
and a
demon.
Wig.
It's a hot demon in a toga who is being produced to keep him from thinking too deeply about the fact that he is doomed.
Yeah.
And then we begin the descent into the end.
Oh, it's not going to go well. It's not all going to work out. You said descent. I thought
that seems so negative.
Yeah, that's weird.
He goes back to his college to be around his scholars who are his friends, and he finally confesses to them.
They're like, bro, you really sucked these past 24 years.
No, they're good buddies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, they're his real friends.
Yeah.
And he finally confesses to him that he sold his soul.
Oh. They couldn't tell.
And they're like, "Oh, buddy.
Aww.
Oh, buddy, no."
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm going to die." And they're like, "You're not dying. You just don't feel good. We'll just get you a doctor." And he's like, "No, I sold my soul.
They're like, "Oh.
I sold my soul and I'm going to die."
ooh,
Yeah.
nope.
It's kind of cute. They're like, we'll stay with you. We'll pray, and
Friends.
the devil won't be able to come get your soul. And he's like, I think you should leave
It's about to get real weird.
before Satan shows up. There's a really phenomenal monologue that closes the play where he is watching the clock. It's the last hour. The clock has struck 11.
Oh.
And it's a really beautifully rendered psychological drama of a man watching his last hour on Earth
Yeah.
tick down.
That sounds terrible.
And trying to decide if there's anything I can do about it, right? He's still asking if it's too late.
That's heavy.
It is, and it's beautifully written. It's the final reckoning of his hope, his arrogance, his fear, his certainty that there is no afterlife.
Yeah.
The fact that at the end, it's hard to be certain of anything.
Yeah. The deathbed confession or whatever, it's like, just in case.
I mean, he says, all beasts are happy, for when they die, their souls are soon dissolved in elements, but mine must live still to be plagued in hell. O soul, to be changed into little water drops and fall into the ocean, never to be found. The way that it's supposed to be staged is the clock is beginning to strike.
Oh, wow.
And it's like intermittently interrupting his monologue.
Yeah.
And he's on the stage completely alone.
Mm-hmm.
And as his monologue closes, behind him, the devils come onto the stage.
Yeah.
And he says, my God, look not so fierce on me. Adders and serpents, let me breathe a while. Ugly hell, gape not. Come not, Lucifer. I'll burn my books. Ah, Mephistopheles. And then the devils take him off stage. That's it. The chorus comes on. They give you like a little bit of a moral.
What could the moral be?
It's pretty short, so here we'll close with this.
Okay.
Cut is the branch that might have grown full straight, and burned is Apollo's laurel bough, that sometimes grew within this learned man. Faustus is gone, regard his hellish fall, whose fiendful fortune may exhort the wise only to wonder at unlawful things, whose deepness doth entice such forward wits to practice more than heavenly power permits.
That's an intense end.
It is.
Very powerful to see that on stage, I'm sure.
In the B text, they ruin it completely.
Oh. Well,
in the B text, there's this whole thing like Mephistopheles shows up, Lucifer shows up, the good angel and the bad angel show up, and they all just kind of
dance battle.
They all just kind of stand around lecturing him. Like and it takes there's so much about the B text that takes this really psychological play. I kind of glossed over it because it's difficult to synopsize and also kind of pointless to synopsize because it's happening so much.
Mm-hmm.
But he spends so much of the play negotiating with himself about whether redemption is possible for him. Because
sounds familiar.
If it is, then he's made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But what if it was never in the cards?
Yeah.
One of the big thematic underpinnings of this play, depending on who you ask, is that when Marlowe was writing it and when Marlowe was at Cambridge, predeterminism was like
all the rage.
All the rage.
Yeah. The hot new trend. Hey, everybody, have you done the predetermination?
And are you familiar?
From the name alone, I feel like I can guess the general gist.
It's a very naughty religious concept.
Knotty, right?
Yes.
Not Naughthy. I was like, ooh, oh.
That's you.
I was like, go on.
Actually, let me pause before we get into predetermination.
Okay.
That was beginning to end, more or less efficiently, Dr. Faustus. We're going to bounce to a part 2 here at some point, at which point we'll talk about it sort of in depth and do some historical context, but that is the story.
So my thoughts are positive. I remember when I read it in college, getting that emotional intensity. And then whenever we watched that movie adaptation, I was like...
The Richard Burton?
Yeah, I was like, good God. So it was nice to have that experience of reading it come back, because I remember getting like sucked into it. You know, it has those kind of universal and themes that I think anyone can identify with, including now hundreds of years later.
It is, and granted, I'm biased because I'm into this kind of thing, but like I find it surprisingly relevant.
Oh, yeah.
For what it is and when it was written.
Yeah. I think it's like a basic thing that we all kind of deal with at some point in our lives, you know?
Yeah. I'm selling my soul. Is it worth it?
Capitalism. New and improved.
You could just change the whole front scene to be like, enter Dr. Faustus, investment banker.
Yeah.
Enter Dr. Faustus, venture capitalist, angel investor. All right. Well, we are going to break off here, and then in part 2 of this episode.
Oh, I never signed on for that.
In part 2, we will be talking about some context, some history. We'll be talking about Christopher Marlowe a little bit, and also just kind of talking shit, exploring the text a little further.
Love it.
But for now, we're going to leave you with that. So,
yay. Thanks for listening. I hope you liked it.
thanks, babies. Bye. Didn't Read It was created, written, and edited by me, Grace Todd. Kaylee Hughes is our publicist and producer. You can follow the podcast on Twitter or Instagram at didn'treaditpod, or reach us via email at didn'treaditpod@gmail.com. For source notes and further reading, as well as a list of all existing episodes, please visit our website at didn'treaditpod.com. We are recorded in Richmond, Virginia, with special thanks to Black Iris Social Club and Pesca Trio Publishing. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving us a review or rating on your preferred podcasting platform, or just tell a friend. If you did not enjoy today's episode, we are currently accepting applications for a full-time nemesis. Our intro music is Books, written, performed, and recorded by William Albritton. Our closing music for this episode is Queen Elizabeth's Pavan, composed by John Bull, another talented troublemaker who may, or may not, have been one of Queen Elizabeth's spies. Recording courtesy of museopen.org.